This is Caesar de Bello Gallico VII, chapter 88. We are nearing the end. So, Siege of Alesia. In the last couple chapters, the Gauls, both outside the town of Alesia and within the town, have noticed a weak point in the Romans' siege works surrounding the town. And they have somehow coordinated their attack so that they're going to attack that spot at the same time and hopefully take the Romans by surprise. So they do so, the Romans respond, Caesar notices what's happening and he sends reinforcements in. Both sides seem to realize that this is the final push, that this will decide the fate of the war. So Caesar then sends T-Lab in with 6 cohorts as a support, and the Galli fight fiercely, and they begin to start tearing down the Roman siege works with grappling hooks. Caesar then sends young Brutus in, and then Fabius, each with cohorts of their own to help. And then finally, like a video game boss, Caesar himself enters the fray with fresh troops. So Caesar then wheels about to ride and support T-Lab, who is being pressed by the enemy, because of course wherever Caesar fights, that is where victory is found. So the chapter begins with Eius adventu ex colore vestitus cognito, quo insigni in proeliis uti consuerat, turmisque equitum et cohortibus visis, quas sequi iusserat, ut de locis superioribus haec declivia et devexa cernebantur, hostes proelium committunt. Hopefully by now you can go through sort of sentence by sentence and read it through, preferably out loud, and kind of get the sense, the gist of what's going on. You should always go back and polish up your translation, but hopefully by now you've read enough Caesar where you can see the pattern, you can see the code. Well, you don't see the code anymore so much, you see blonde, brunette, redhead for you Matrix fans. So you can kind of tell Caesar's style that the main clause is at the end, usually, hostes proelium committunt. And that's going to be the main idea of the sentence, that the enemy joined battle. Everything else in the sentence that preceded that the enemy joined battle, are the attendant circumstances, the setting, the location, the time, all the things that led up to the main action, that the enemy joining battle. Why did the enemy join battle? When did the enemy join battle? Under what circumstances did the enemy join battle? All of these things, starting with Eius adventu up to cernebantur, then lead up to the conclusion, the enemy joined battle. So we'll start with the beginning, because that is the place to start. Eius adventu ex colore vestitus cognito. So here we have an ablative absolute. Eius is genitive, and it refers back to Caesar. So it's a pronoun standing in for a noun, so the genitive of Caesar is Caesaris. Eius is standing in for Caesaris. Caesar's, with the apostrophe s. Adventu, the ablative of adventus us, masculine arrival or advent. Ex colore, ex plus the ablative separation, out of, and that can be more of an abstract separation. You learn something from something else, as we have here. Cognito, that something was learned ex colore, from something else. Vestitus is the genitive. There should be a macron over the u. So it's vestitus us, masculine. Vestment, clothing. Here it means cloak. Refers to Caesar's cloak. Remember that famous picture of Caesar receiving Vercingetorix in surrender that we've been looking at all year? Yeah, Caesar's wearing that red cloak. That's the one we're talking about. So Caesar's adventu, your training wheels baby translation of the ablative absolute, with the noun adventu in the ablative and its participle cognito, perfect passive participle of cognosco, cognoscere, cognovi, cognitus, ablative singular masculine to agree with adventu, and with the noun participle, with the arrival having been known, found out, learned of, with his, Caesar's arrival, Eius' arrival, having been found out. And how was it found out? How did they know that Caesar had entered the fray? Ex colore vestitus, from the color of his cloak. Red-cloaked man has just entered the battlefield. Player 3 has entered the game. It's Caesar! Oh my gosh, it's Caesar! Quo insigni in proeliis uti consuerat. Quo, relative clause, relative pronoun. Relative pronoun, its antecedent is probably going to be the vestitus, because it's the insigni. It's a mark. Which mark? Quo insigni. It's more of an appositive. Which mark? It really is a relative clause. The noun insigni is agreeing with quo. So which mark, it's signifying which one, which insignia, you could say, from insignis insigne. So the antecedent of vestitus, singular masculine, must be singular masculine. Vestitus is genitive, quo is ablative because of uti. Uti is the infinitive form of utor, where if uti, usus sum takes the ablative of means. So quo insigni, ablative of means. In proeliis, in plus the ablative here showing location, proelium, proeli, neuter, battle. Uti, we said, was the present active infinitive, present, its deponent. So looks passive, please translate as active. Present passive infinitive or deponent infinitive of utor, and consuerat. So had been accustomed. Which insignia, quo insigni, he, Caesar, consuerat, had been accustomed to uti, to use, make use of, or you can even say wear, it's a cloak, to wear or to don in proeliis, to don in battles. He put on his red cloak. I want everyone to know that I'm here, that I've come to the battlefield. So he was accustomed to put on his red cloak, so people would be able to mark him, insigni. Turmisque equitum et cohortibus visis, quas sequi iusserat. So turmis, a turma, is a squadron of cavalry. So this looks like an ablative absolute. So we have turmis and que being the conjunction, the postpositive enclitic, translated before the word to which it is attached. And with the squadrons, equitum, eques, equitus, masculine, knight, horseman, here we have plural, so you can say the knights or the cavalry. With the squadrons of the cavalry, et and cohortibus, with the cohorts, cohortis feminine, the cohorts, that's a squadron of infantry, of foot soldiers. With the cohorts visis, seen. So with the squadrons of cavalry and infantry visis having been seen, with the squad termis visis seen, after catching sight of the squadrons of knights and infantry, quas, so we have a relative pronoun introducing a relative clause. The relative pronoun quas, it is accusative, it is plural, it is feminine. It must agree with its antecedent in gender and number, not necessarily in case. So it must be plural and feminine. Its antecedent, we have the termis and the cohortibus. They're both feminine. They're both plural, the antecedent of quas. Termis and cohortibus are both ablative because they're in the ablative absolute. Quas is accusative because it is the direct object of sequi. Sequi is a complementary infinitive completing, it is not complementary. It is with a form of eubeo. It's an objective infinitive. Eubeo, eubere, iussi, there we go, iussus, so iusserat. He had ordered, he had bid, subject is Caesar. He had bid them to quas, them, the cohorts and the termis, to sequi, say, to follow, say, him. Say being the reflexive, once again, go ahead and circle it. You can draw an arrow from the reflexive to the subject being whoever is iusserat, ordering, and that's Caesar. He ordered quas, them, the termis and the cohortibus, to sequi, to follow, say, him. So he's got his red cloak on. I hope this is very vivid in your imagination. Puts on his red cloak. He himself is on a horse, and he orders the squadrons of cavalry and the infantry to follow me. And they start coming over the hill, and they're seen by the enemy. Ut de locis superioribus, haec declivia et devexa cernebantur. So this is ut plus the indicative, ut cernebantur. So there's no so that. This is more as. When, since, as, or although, sometimes if. Here, let's just say as. As, it's going to explain how the squadrons of cavalry and infantry were seen by the enemy. As, since, because, ut, de locis superioribus, from the locis superioribus, I have the high ground, Anakin. So from the high ground, haec declivia, these declivia is a decline. So it's a going down. You can say de in there. De locis superioribus, haec declivia et devexa. There's a moving down here, like a hill cresting and then falling. So these declines and devexa, declines and depressions, cernebantur, were being put a dis, D-I-S, in front of cerno, and you get discern. They were made out. You can see something, like I can discern that there are 3 birds outside. Meaning you sort of squint your eyes and look, and I can make out that there are 3 birds outside. I can discern them. I can see them. So these declines and depressions were being discerned, were being seen. So the enemy, they're kind of squinting and like, what's that? Oh, it's a squadrons of cavalry and infantry with a red-cloaked man up in front. They were being seen from the high ground. Hostes proelium committunt, the enemy joined battle. So after Caesar's arrival was learned of due to the color of his cloak, which insignia he had been accustomed to don in battles. And after the squadrons of cavalry and infantry, which he had ordered to follow him, were seen, as these depressions and declines were able to be discerned from the high ground, the enemy joined battle. So after all that, we've set up the scene, we sort of painted a picture, and then the action happens. The enemy joined battle. Utrimque clamore sublato, excipit rursus, ex vallo, atque omnibus munitionibus clamore. Now, as it tends in Caesar, when battles start happening, the sentences tend to get shorter. They don't always. There's that section near the end of Book 2, where the sentences actually seem to get longer and more complicated, and that sort of reflects how the battle was extremely arduous. The battle was complicated, the battle didn't go very well. You feel like when you're translating, you're kind of in the mud there with Caesar's troops. As battles tend to happen and get more exciting, the sentences tend to get shorter because it speeds up your reading. Utrimque clamore sublato. Utrim, we have, you can see uter there, with the root of uter being utra, U-T-R. Utrim, the im part, that's adverbial. We've seen like nominatim, by name, generatim, by tribe. So that im, interim, meanwhile, which is an adverb. So im is an alternate adverb ending in Latin. So we have like uter im, other sidely, que. Like uterque, other sidely, on both sides. Just an adverb meaning on both sides. Clamore sublato, ablative absolute, with a clamor clamoris masculine ablative having been tollo tollere sustuli sublatus sublato. Both are ablative singular and masculine, with a shout having been tollo, lifted up, raised. With a shout raised up, with a cry lifted up. With a shout lifted up, after lifting up a shout, when they raised up a cry, when a cry arose. How about that? When a cry rose up. Excipit. Now this is pretty cool. Here's the verb, and if you're thinking, now wait a minute, what's the subject? When Roman authors do this, when they put the verb first, they really want to emphasize the action. And they want to sort of, they also want to emphasize who's doing the action, but they want to delay in telling you that information. They want to keep you in suspense. So they'll tell you the action, excipit, something was ex capio, was taken up or taken out. So this is somewhat a synonym here with tollo, which you see the form sublato right next to it. Tollo, tollere, sustuli, sublatos. So we have a cry was lifted up, a shout arose, Excipit, and synonym, rose up, lifted up, taken up. Rursus, again, like rursus incipiemus, nunc et semper. Ex vallo, the ex vallo, that's related to the ex in excipit. So you have somewhat like Tamisus, you have the prefix excipit from excapio, and then the preposition ex with the noun vallo. From the rampart, the vallum e neuter. From the rampart, atque omnibus munitionibus, atque being a souped up et. We have atque because the next word, omnibus, starts with a vowel. And from all the munitionibus, ex also goes with omnibus munitionibus. Clamore, there is the noun. There's the subject. Delayed for suspense at the end. So another shout, because rursus, the adverb, goes with excipit, you can translate that as another shout. On both sides, a shout arose, and a shout was again taken up, excipit, from the rampart and from all of the fortifications. So there's a lot of shouting, a great cry. Nostri omnissis pilis, gladiis rem gerunt. Sentences are getting shorter. Nostri, our men. You don't need the weary, just our men is fine here. Omnissis pilis, ablative absolute, from omitto, which just means like mitto, to send off, to, like you're mailing a letter, only the letter is actually a javelin. Pilum e neuter. So with their javelins sent, or you can say with their javelins having been cast, after omissis casting their pilis, their javelins. Our men, after casting their javelins, gladiis rem gerunt, they, with swords, gladiis, ablative means rem gerunt. They wage, conduct, handle, gero, gerere, gessi, gestus, the rem, the matter, which is kind of a euphemism. They handle their business. What business? The battle. Oh. What are they using? Gladiis, swords, ablative means. Oh. Like they handle the task with swords. They're using weapons to do their job. They gerunt rem. They do the job, gladiis, with swords. Our men, after casting their javelins, do their job with swords. Notice we're putting pilis right next to gladiis. So there's a nice antithesis right there. We've already cast our pilis, now we're moving on to the gladiis. Repente, postergum equitatus cernitur. Sentences, thoughts, sententiae, getting shorter. Repente, suddenly, all of a sudden, postergum, post plus the accusative, at their tergumi neuter, at their back, behind them. It's behind you, turn around, look, oh no. Equitatus, the cavalry, equitatus was masculine, cernitur, like cernebantur up above, cernitur, is discerned, is seen. Suddenly, at their back, meaning at the back of the enemy, behind the enemy, the cavalry is seen. Oh no. Cohortes aliae appropinquant. Thoughts are getting shorter. The cohorts, aliae, other ones, other cohorts appropinquant, approach. So suddenly, behind the enemy, the cavalry is seen. Other cohorts approach. Hostes terga vertunt. The enemy turn their backs. Fugientibus equites occurrunt. Fugientibus, dative or ablative plural. Fugio, fugere, fugi, fugitus. This is a present active participle. The fleers, the ones fleeing, the ones who are in the process, present active participle of fleeing. You can just say the deserters. The guys who are fleeing, those who are in flight, running away in flight. Equites occurra. Those who are running away in flight, the fugientibus, the equites, the Roman cavalry, the knights, occurrunt. They obcurro, run them down. And occurra takes the dative. It's a compound verb, obcurro. Compound verbs often do take the dative. So that's what fugientibus is doing there in the dative. So the cavalry run down those in flight. Hostes terga vertunt. The enemy turn their backs and the cavalry run down those in flight. Fit magna caedes. Very short sentence. One of the shortest you're ever going to see in Caesar, if not the shortest. Verb comes first. Fit, from fio, fieri, factus sum, the passive of facio. Third person singular present tense. historical present, it becomes, it happens, there happened, there was, thus began, magna caides, a great caides feminine, slaughter. Then began a great slaughter. A great slaughter began. The verb comes first, and then the subject caides delayed for the end for suspense. Then began a great slaughter. Sedulius dux et princeps lemovicum occiditur. Notice the impact of the short sentence. After having seen so many longer sentences throughout Caesar, you really get your work out trying to figure out these longer sentences, these sort of Caesarean periods. But now we have fit magna caides. It's very short. It's 3 words. And the impact is great. Great slaughter began. Sedulius, the leader and the princeps, appositives of Sedulius, the leader and the chieftain of the Lemovices, that's genitive plural, Lemovicum, occiditur, is slain, is felled. Vercassivellaunus Arvernus vivus in fuga comprehenditur. Vercassivellaunus the Arvernian, alive, in flight, comprehenditur, is captured. Remember comprehendo? We think comprehend is a thinking action. We comprehend, we think, we understand. It really means to grasp. And in classical Latin, it means to apprehend, like to grasp physically, to lay hands upon, to arrest. As time goes on, in the Romance languages, that action becomes less physical, and it becomes more of a mental action of, oh, I comprehend, I understand. You grasp or see something mentally, you get it. So he is arrested. This is classical Latin, so this is the physical, they laid hands upon him. Vercassivellaunus the Arvernian is captured, is arrested alive in fuga, in flight. He is apprehended. Signa militaria septuaginta quatuor ad Caesarem referuntur. Signa militaria, military standards. Signum e neuter, you know what those are. Septuaginta quatuor, that's 70, 70, and quatuor 4. 74 military standards, ad Caesarem, ad plus the accusative motion towards, Caesarem to Caesar, referuntur, from referre, retuli relatus, are brought back. They're just brought back. Signa militaria, 74 military standards are brought back to Caesar. Pauci a few. So pauci ex tanto numero se incolumes in castra recipiunt. A few, nominative plural. You would expect a viri, but like nos 3 above, you really don't need it. It's a substantive adjective. So a few ex tanto numero from ex, ablative separation, from tantus aum, so great, stands in for tam magnus. Such a great number, such a large numero, number. Remember, I believe the relief force shows up with some 120,000. And from such a great number, se incolumes in castra recipiunt. Se is the reflexive. You can circle the reflexive and draw an arrow to the subject. The subject here are the pauci. That information is also contained within the verb recipiunt, third person plural, so a few. So a few pauci se recipio retake themselves. This is the way of Latin saying to return or to retreat. I would say retreat here. A few se recipiunt, retreat, ex tanto numero, from such a great number. So a few from such a great number retreat incolumes. That is a predicate nominative plural masculine. Incolumes, meaning unharmed. Retreat unharmed in castra, in plus the accusative motion towards, into their camp. A few, only a few from such a great number retreat unharmed into the camp. Out of 120,000, so great a number. Conspicati ex oppido, caedem et fugam suorum desperata salute, copias a munitionibus reducunt. Conspicati, from conspicor, conspicare, conspicatus sum, deponent verb, looks passive, please translate as active. Perfect passive participle, give it an active translation. Having conspicio, having caught sight of. having espied, they saw. Nominative plural masculine, conspicati. Ex plus the ablative separation from the oppidum inuder town, so from Alesia. Having caught sight from Alesia, the direct objects, caedem et fugam, the slaughter and the flight, suorum, genitive plural, of their own, you could say of their allies. It stands in for the troops under Vercassivellaunus. Once again, it's a reflexive. It's a reflexive possessive adjective. Go ahead and circle it. Circle the su, the su part, and draw an arrow to the subject, and that's going to be the conspicati, the nominative plural masculine conspicati there. It refers to the Gauls who are inside the town of Alesia, ex oppido Alesia. So it's their own, the people in Gaul, suorum, theirs. The orum, that needs to agree with whatever the noun is here. Here it's acting like a substantive, of their own. Sociorum, amicorum, necessiorum, allies, relatives, friends, of their own. You can just say of their own. The caedem et fugam suorum, the slaughter and the flight, the escape of their own, of their allies. Desperata salute. Desperata, despero, desperare, desperavi, desperatus. There should be a macron over the final A in desperata. So ablative singular feminine with salute, that's an ablative absolute. With the nouns salus, salutis feminine, well-being, safety, salvation, desperata, having been despaired of, with their well-being despaired of. So they're at the end of their hope. You can see, kind of see spei in desperata, sperata. They are despero, they're losing their hope, despairing. So having caught sight, first they caught sight from the town of the slaughter and the escape of their own. Then they desperata salute, they lost hope with their well-being, with hope of their well-being lost. Copias, accusative, plural, feminine, copiae, copiarum, troops, forces. Ab plus the ablative, separation or personal agent. Here it's going to be separation. Munitionibus, reducunt, from reduca, reducere, reduxi, reductus. They lead back. So these are the Gauls from Alesia. After they conspicati, caught sight of the slaughter and the flight of their allies, then they lost hope of their salvation, lost hope of their escape or their rescue, and so they reducunt, they lead their forces from the fortifications, meaning the Roman circumvallation, the Roman siege works, munitionibus. So they return back to the town, ad oppidum. So once again, the sentence tells you in the chronological order in which the actions occurred. First, they caught sight of the bad stuff happening to their allies. They lost hope, and so they bring their troops back. The main sentence being, copias a munitionibus reducunt, at the end. Then we get fit protinus, hac re audita ex castris Galilorum fuga. Fit, like we had a couple times before, where we had the Utrimque clamore sublato excipit, main verb, and then its subject is the last word, clamore. Then we had fit magna caedes, that remarkable short sentence. We had the verb first, fit, and then we had the subject caedes. At not much suspense there. It's only 3 words long, but it's impactful. It's emphatic. Here we have fit, once again, main verb, and the subject is delayed at the end for suspense. There began, there happened. Oh gosh, is it another caedes? Are we going to do this again? There was protinus forthwith. I mean, oh gosh, I don't know what's going to happen to these Gauls. It's kind of a lie. I already read the sentence. There began, there happened. There was protinus forthwith, immediately protinus, hac re audita. With this hic haec hoc is right here, this thing right here, hac re. So with this stuff, with this thing, with this news, audita, having been heard, ablative absolute, audita being a perfect passive participle of audio, audire, audivi, auditus. Audita, put a macron over the second A at the end, so it's ablative. After this news was heard, there immediately happened, fit, began. Remember, it's the passive of facio. You should never see facitor. You should only see fit. ex caceres Gallorem, from the camp of the Gauls, from the Gallic camp, fuga, a flight. So they ran, they got out of there. So after this news was heard, meaning that that there was the great slaughter of the allies, then there was a great flight occurred. A great flight happened from the Gallic camp. Quos nisi crebris subsidiis ac totius diei labore milites essent defessi, omnes hostium copiae delere potuissent. It's kind of a dark sentence, dude. Quote, usually because, it could be some referring to some sort of antecedent, or here just be because. Nisi, quod si, but if, quod nisi, but if not. Crebris, from creber, crebra, crebrum, meaning crowded, and subsidiis, subsidium e neuter. So this is going to be ablative by means of crowded. Subsidium means aid, help, like a subsidy, a support. We could say crowded supports, crowded reinforcements. But if it were not because of the crowded reinforcements, ac, souped up form of et, the alternate form is atque if the next word starts with a vowel. Next word, totius, starts with a consonant, so we have ac instead of atque. And totius is a heteroclite adjective, what you call me? So that's the genitive. Eius, genitive, e, letter I for the dative. Otherwise, they have forms like your usual first and second declension adjectives. Totius die is die masculine. Sometimes it can be feminine. Here it's going to be masculine. And that's genitive. Of the whole day. The labore, of the whole day. The work, the toil. Yeah, the work. All that hard work you put into killing all those Gauls. Yep, that was some hard work. They gladiis rem gerunt. They handled the job. They did their business with swords. Yep, all that work they did. What did you do today? I put in some hard work, killing a bunch of Gauls with weapons. But if not because with, by means of, the crebris subsidiis, the crowded reinforcements, and also the labore, because of, ablative of means, labore, by means of the toil, or could also be ablative of cause, because of the toil, totius die, of the whole day, the entire day, spent all day fighting, milites, there's our nominative, essent defessi. We have the soldiers were defessi, defessus aum, tired, tuckered out, fatigued. Why were they fatigued? For what reason? The crebris subsidiis, by means of the crowded reinforcements. Everything was so crowded and hectic and pell-mell while they were fighting, and that's tiring. It's exhausting. Have you ever tried to hack people to death in a magna caides, in a big slaughter? I mean, I'm sure it's exhausting. And it took totius die all day long. Of course the soldiers were tired. Omnes hostium copiae. Omnes agrees with copiae. That's your nominative plural feminine subject. Hostium being the genitive, tightly nestled between them. So we have all the troops of the enemy. We can just say English, all the enemy troops. Remember, you can't say metro card in Latin. You'd have to say card of metro. Delere potuissent. Had been able to be destroyed. From possum, posse, potui. That's the pluperfect active subjunctive, third plural. Deleri, present passive infinitive of deleo, deleri, delevi, deletos. Possum screams out for a complementary infinitive to complement or complete its meaning, and that's what deleri is doing here. So, if it were not because of the crowded reinforcements and the toil of the whole day, which tired the soldiers, all the enemy forces would have been destroyed. All the enemy forces would have been destroyed if the soldiers were not tired by the crowded reinforcements and the toil of the whole day. So here we have a conditional. We have a protasis and an apodosis. The protasis being introduced by nisi, so si, the negative of si, if. The apodosis, the payoff is all the troops would have been destroyed. So under what circumstances would the apodosis, the payoff, all the troops would have been destroyed? If the soldiers had not been tired by the crowd of reinforcements and the toil of the whole day. De media nocte, missus equitatus, novissimum agmen consequitur, magnus numeros capitor atque interficitur, reliqui ex fuga in civitates discedunt. It's very sad. De media, ablative media, de plus the ablative means down from, can also mean about or concerning, or like roundabout, like approximately. Here it means like approximately. So roundabout media nocte, midnight, the middle of the night, that's midnight. Just read that the Romans are weird in that they like us, we've taken this from the Romans, we start our day at midnight, at 12 a.m. So the Romans. And that's weird because every other culture, especially around the Romans, doesn't really do that. The Gauls started their day at sunset, for example. So night comes first for the Gauls, and then the day follows afterwards. So around midnight, missus equitatus, missus from mittito, mittere, missi, missus, to send forth. This is the perfect passive participle with a nominative singular masculine subject. Something was sent forth, having been sent forth. In equitatus, the cavalry. So the cavalry was sent. Novissimum agmen. Novissimum, the superlative of novus aum, new, it means the newest. When linked with agmen is neuter, it means the rear guard. So it's the newest or the most recent part of the guard, meaning the back. It's the part that is the most recent, the part that you just saw most recently. The front left first, the back left later, and you most recently saw the back because the front is already gone. Novissimum agmen just means the rear guard. Consequitur, deponent verb, consequor, consequi, consecutus sum, means to not just sequor follow, but to cum or con sequor, to follow where you overtake something. You reach up, you obtain it, you get it. So I would say they followed up, they reached. Around midnight, the cavalry was sent forth, and it consequitur caught up with the rear guard, meaning the Gauls who are in flight from the previous battle, the ones who are running away. Caesar sent the cavalry out of the camp around midnight, and they rode for a while, and then they caught up with the rear guard. Or the rear guard caught up around midnight. He sent them out at some point. Missus. They were sent out first, and then I think it's around midnight that they then catch up with the rear guard. Magnus numerus capitor, a great number, magnus numerus capitor, is captured. Notice the use of the passive voice here. Atque interficitur, and also slain, killed. A great number is captured and slain. Reliqui ex fuga, reliqui, reliquus aum, the remaining. Be careful if you translate it the rest of, because it does not take the genitive. So the remaining, the remainder, the ones that were left over, the ones that weren't taken prisoner, and the ones that weren't hacked to pieces, the ones that were left, the remainder. It's like a division problem. Ex fuga, ex plus the ablative, separation. We've seen that a lot in this chapter. From flight. In civitates, in plus the accusative motion towards, into the states, towards the states, discedunt. So they discedunt, they leave, they depart. Cedo with a prefix. Cedo usually means to yield or give way. When you give it a prefix and it becomes a compound verb, cedo means to move, and the prefix tells you in which direction you are moving. So adcedo means to approach towards, accedo. To discedo means to move apart, to leave. Excedo means to depart, to leave. Incedo means to go towards, to proceed. So the rest, the remaining, leave, depart, ex fuga, out of their flight, in civitates, to the states. So the rest leave in their flight to their states. The rest go home in flight. So if they weren't captured, if they weren't hacked to pieces, the rest do get to go home by escaping in flight, by running away.